Welcome to the third video in my 2026 goal setting series, and today I'm going to be brainstorming my 2026 focus areas and goals. So stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm Tracy and I want to welcome you back to my channel. I want to thank you all so much for pressing that play button on this video. So yes, this is going to be, I guess, the wrap up to the goal setting prep work, because today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the brainstorming that I've already done when it comes to what I want to focus on in 2026. I'm going to be continuing to probably do some brainstorming over the next few days, and the next video is actually going to be a setting, I guess we can go ahead and call them goals, but setting those goals. I like to call them focus areas. But yeah, I think I'm ready to go ahead and start setting those goals, intentions, aspirations for 2026, and maybe even look specifically at the first quarter. So if you are new to my channel or new to this video series, as I said, this is the third video in the series. The first video was on 2025 reflections. I answered some reflection questions. I set them all up myself. I borrowed heavily from the Moxie Life system. However, I also just pulled from questions that I thought would be good when thinking about the current year and how things went. I also did a few assessments. I did the Moxie Life Compass assessment. Plus, I kind of just rated certain categories of my life and subcategories of my life. I expanded beyond the Moxie Life's 8 kind of life categories here. And then in the second video, I kind of looked ahead to 2026, thought about what I wanted to get out of 2026. Also what I wanted to leave behind in 2025, but more so looking ahead, trying to kind of get in that right frame of mind to start brainstorming on my life categories. So that brings us to this video. So what I have in front of me is my little prep work notebook. It's just a notebook that I've called my prep work notebook. See? 2026 goal setting prep work, where I have everything in here. I like having everything in one notebook, and I really like having everything in a notebook that really doesn't have much more space other than for this prep work. So I can keep it with my planner at all times and then retire it with my planner at the end of next year and start a new one. So yeah, this is working out pretty well for me. So like I said, last week I did some intentions. I really didn't have to add anything additional to my intention questions after the fact. When I did my reflections, I've revisited this book a couple of times throughout the week to add some more reflections, but I really didn't have to do that for intentions. And I think part of that is because the intentions and the brainstorming are kind of closely aligned. I probably could have done that all at one time, but I like to drag things out. So like I said, I've already started my brainstorming. I just figured it was going to be difficult for me to sit down, film a video, and try to hurry up and brainstorm something in a really short, time span. So I'm like, let me start brainstorming on my own, and then I can just walk you through what I did. So what I did here is also what I did before I started doing my reflections. Is I really wanted to define what these Moxie Life categories meant to me, how I was going to be defining these categories. Like I said, I did this at the very beginning of the book, but I did not refer to this when I did this because I didn't want this to influence this. So the reason why I defined this was because I wanted to make assessments based on those definitions. So I needed to do this in order to do this. But now I'm kind of like starting over. So I wanted to redefine them. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because I feel like a lot of these categories are very broad. Plus, I feel like it's very important for me to make them feel a little bit more personal so I can create all these subcategories that I'm really going to be focusing on more so than the overall category. You'll understand that in a moment because I'll go through each one. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit each one individually, and I'll go over the brainstorming when I actually go over this. But before I do that, Let's quickly kind of talk about the Moxie life categories. I guess I guess is what you can call it. These are very, very similar to life categories in other goal setting systems. If you type in your Google search bar, Wheel of Life, a lot of this comes up. Some of the titles might differ a little bit, but the concepts are usually the same. There are other goal setting systems that may have more or less categories. And also, I mean, you can completely personalize this. If you feel like you need more categories than these 8, you can create your own. If you feel like this is too much and you want to remove some, do what you got to do. I think I'm going to start out with all 8. Like I said, I am going to have some subcategories, so it's going to kind of seem like it's more than 8. However, if at any point throughout this year, there's a category where I'm like, right now, this is causing me a little bit more stress than I need, I might pause that one and just focus on the others at the time. Like, I'm definitely going to be flexible, when it comes to a lot of this year. I want to keep everything on my mind in the forefront, but I also don't want to stress over it. Hope that makes sense. So according to like Moxie Life's titles for their categories, you have personal, you have fun and recreation, work and learning, family and relationships, health and wellness, spiritual and personal growth, financial and physical environment. So a copy of this is in the Moxie Life flagship planner. There also is likely probably something like this in some of their notebooks. I cannot confirm that because I don't have any of their notebooks. But this is also available on their website as a free printable download. So you can check it out, print it out, or just refer to it on your phone or computer. But I really like this because there are words within each category that you can kind of read to kind of get guidance on how that category can apply to you. So I did look at these words and I kind of pulled some of those words out into my definitions. And I have switched things around this year than I have last year, just based on kind of utilizing this a little bit more. You'll understand as I go through it. So let's go ahead and go through it. What do you say? So first we have personal. I think I might have mentioned this in like my first goal setting video about how I see personal. I see this as like my foundation, my base. So when I am thinking about what I need for my personal category, I'm thinking about what I need to make every other area of my life easier, or to make it easier to accomplish the goals and all my other areas of life as well. That's how I am seeing personal. That's how I'm treating this category. I probably should rename it because I think it would make a little bit more sense. I probably should rename it as like foundation or something like that, because I'm seeing it as more of like the foundation or like organizing my life. That is kind of how I view personal. And along those same lines, when I'm talking about like organizing my life or the foundation, I'm kind of talking about routines and planning and things of that nature. Now, as I was looking at these words, I saw creativity. And, I think previously, I don't really know that I included that in any of my categories, but it is something that I have realized has really become part of my foundation, because it really does help in all areas of my life. It definitely helps in health and wellness, because it's really helping with my mental health. It is also helping with my personal growth. We'll get to how I define that as well. But that's kind of like self-improvement type things is how I'm going to define it. It's probably not helping with financial as much because, spending a little money there. But it's also helping with fun and rec because I'm incorporating memory keeping and things like that regarding my fun and recreation and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like it is helping in other areas of my life. And because I'm kind of considering that a foundation in several other areas, obviously not all, but several others, that is why I am including that in the personal category. And that's fine. It doesn't have to fit exactly. It just doesn't need to be overlooked. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to jump to some of my brainstorming. So when I did it, what I did is because I had foundation, organization, and creativity, I broke that up here, and then I did a very sloppy mind map. I will go over this so you don't have to try to decipher what I wrote. But when I was thinking about foundations and organizations, the main things I was thinking about was routines, schedule, and check-ins. That was kind of the three things that I was thinking about. So when it comes to routines, I was thinking about everyday routines, AM, PM, midday. Hey, if you've been with me for a while, that probably sounds very familiar. It's been one of my biggest struggles over the past 2 years, but I refuse to let those go. And then I also was thinking about work routines, home routines, and things like that. That's something a little bit different. I've never actually set a work routine, but I might need to do that just to kind of help me also organize my workday a little bit better. And then I put habits and I think there it's just going to be like, I'm hoping that my routines become habits is part of that. Again, this is a sloppy mind map, brain dump. So everything's not going to make sense, especially when I go back through it and I'm like, why did I put that there? And then when I talk about schedule, I put in parentheses planning because that's what I mean. I need to schedule out things a little bit more. That's part of the organization and things of that nature. And I kind of want to schedule a little bit more this year. I do kind of want to keep a little bit of spontaneity there. I don't want to be like spontaneity is bad. Not at all. I want to be spontaneous, but I fail at that miserably, by the way. But when it comes to actually, just kind of setting a plan or scheduling a plan is kind of like what I want to do to have an idea of what's coming up, whether I stick to it or not. That's another story. If fun is involved, I don't care about sticking to it. But I need to schedule life, work, projects. An offshoot of projects is creativity, and I need to schedule fun. Hopefully that'll make me I don't want to say make more time for fun because I think I probably had time for fun, but hopefully that'll make me prioritize fun a little bit more. I did also kind of write in here time management. That was something that I really wanted to focus on a little bit. I actually wanted to focus on it quite frequently in 2025. I didn't really do that very much. I wanted to do some like time audits or day audits. I didn't do that. This year, I think I'm going to be doing that because I'm going to be recording what I did that day as far as memory keeping. And I think in a way that's going to be kind of like a time audit of sorts. So I might utilize that information to kind of see where my day is going, where my hour is going. And, I want to definitely make sure, chores and free time and things like that are factored in, but I also want to be productive. So yeah. And then I put check-ins because regarding everything in my life, I need to like check in to figure out what's working, what I need to adjust. And I think because I am using a Moxie Life flagship planner, which I will pull out instead of just referring to it. Look, I got it in my cover already. My Jeans Agenda cover I got on Black Friday. But there are these weekly actions, and there are check-ins here that actually have prompts here. I don't know that I'm going to use this, but I think I might check in to some extent on this page. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I think having a space specifically for that already in my planner hopefully will help me do that, because I feel like it's pretty important to check in because if you're not checking in, then you don't know what you need to adjust, so I want to be able to make adjustments as needed. Sometimes I might need to slow down or take more breaks, take more breathers, or what have you, and I just need to account for that. Then I put creativity there. I put creativity strictly as a hobby. So I'm not talking about creativity in the sense of creating things for YouTube or anything like that. I'm thinking of when I just need a brain break, from like a real world brain break, because obviously you're using your brain when you're being creative and things like that. but just to kind of step away from all the chaos and just sit down and be creative. So I definitely want to like kind of focus on that. I want that to be a priority. And I feel like that is something that is going to be essential, like I said, for all of the other areas of my life as well. I definitely need to make sure I'm not overwhelmed or stressed. And I feel like taking breaks by doing something instead of just watching TV sometimes is going to be very helpful. And then I put memory keeping because you're going to see that throughout, because that is a big priority of mine. Plus, it makes me feel good. When a lot of times when you memory keep, you always memory keep the good things and it makes you feel good. So yeah, that is kind of what I wrote for personal. Again, I did that over the course of like a 10-minute span. So my thought is I'm going to come into this throughout the week, jot other things down. It's probably just going to be a regular brain dump to kind of help me, guide me to what I really want to focus on. However, I can pretty much assure you what I have here is the gist of what I'm going to be focusing on. I just need to hone it down into simpler terms. So that's my personal. That probably is going to, that is probably the one category that's going to take the most explanation. So hopefully we can fly through some of these other ones. And then we have fun and rec. And I did go ahead and kind of break that up like it is here. So I guess for fun and rec, you can say I have 3 subcategories. So I have travel, I have social, which is more socialization, and then experiences. For travel, I want to focus on scheduling or planning trips for the years ahead. So I need to start thinking about 2027 when I'm in 2026. Like right now, I'm thinking about 2026 and we're almost at the end of 2025. I would like to have that already planned out. But yeah, I want to start getting the ball rolling on that earlier and earlier. I would like to take some smaller trips in the upcoming year. When I said smaller trips, I put plane. So, it's trips that might not be as close by car, but nothing like super lavish or long or anything like that. And then I put weekend getaways via car. So like very small trips. Those I'm usually pretty good at, but I just, it's a priority of mine. I love to travel. So I always want to throw it into my goals or intentions for the upcoming year. So I did want to put social in here, even though the social and the experiences are both going to overlap when it comes to family and friends. I want to put it in this category in particular for a few reasons. We'll kind of get to that as we start talking about it. So social, I kind of said outings. And then when I was talking about outings, I was like friends, solo, meetup. I need to coordinate those outings. I can't always wait for someone else to coordinate them for me and then invite me to go. I need to take the initiative to do that. I was okay with it this year, but a lot of times my outings was, hey, you want to go grab lunch or dinner? I would like to, make them a little bit more adventurous in the coming year. And then it kind of aligns a little bit when I'm thinking about experiences and I'm thinking, I want to do things. I want to have some nice experiences, some new experiences, and why not combine that with like the socialization or when I get to later, like connections with family and friends and, coordinate some of this with my friends, with my family. When I say family, I mean my parents, and things of that nature. And I was like trying to focus, I put on here simple and local because that's what I just got to realize it doesn't have to be really big. It can be something really, really simple. The Science Museum or something like that. I did write spontaneity is okay because as someone who loves to plan and loves to know what they're going to be doing at 6 p.m. tomorrow, I need to realize that sometimes it's okay to not have a plan. All right, work and learning. So when I went to define work and learning, work and learning to me, is always kind of like an category. I don't set goals for my 9 to 5. I don't want to say those goals are set for me, but I have things that I have to do anyway. So basically my goal is to get those done, right? But when it comes to, I guess work, I'll just say a girl with plans, like my social media type stuff. Yeah, I don't really like to set a lot of goals for that either because I want this to be fun. It's a hobby. It's not a job. But I think sometimes it's okay to kind of set parameters. And you'll see when I started brainstorming, I did kind of think about what's going to make it even more fun. And then the next thing was learning. I think I always miss that part, but there's always these things I want to learn. I just need to make sure that I not only put them to paper, I kind of incorporate them into maybe some of my new experiences or whatever that I want to accomplish for fun and rec. So like new skills and hobby is how I define that, which is self-explanatory. But when we went here, so what I did is I mind mapped a girl with plans, and then I just brain dumped hobbies. So with girl with plans, enjoyment. I want to keep enjoying this. So I do need to keep evaluating how things are going to make sure that the enjoyment piece stays true. I don't want it to feel like work. I did say schedule. That is something that I really need to do when it comes to my social media type stuff. I don't want to spend hours upon hours on a Saturday filming just to have enough videos for the upcoming week. I kind of I want to schedule, but I'm such a mood filmer. I want to film when I'm in the mood, but I really need to schedule. I'm kind of conflicted there because I feel like being a mood filmer, it kind of brings in that enjoyment piece. But then, like I said, I could be filming for 4 hours on a Saturday, and that's no fun. We'll see. I have to figure out what that actually means and how to get to that. Then I need some consistency with posting. I would love to get into doing some more shorts. And then, of course, I guess I have to say growth, growth, like channel growth and stuff like that. If I'm being honest, when it comes to a girl with plans stuff, I set goals. I don't really focus on them too much, like I said, because I still want it to be fun and carefree and a hobby. So when looking at new hobbies or new things to learn, foreign language, that's always on here. And sadly, because I took such a long break this year from learning Spanish, yeah, I don't know if I'm back to like the very basics again, because I probably can't remember anything that I learned like 14, 16 months ago when I was on Duolingo. So yeah, I need to do that again. Once I settle on a travel destination, I have to figure out whether or not I want to go back to Spanish or whether or not I might want to like learn something from where I'm going to be traveling. So that is to be determined, but I did enjoy doing Duolingo. It was super easy to do, like in the mornings when I wake up. I can lay in bed and do it. So I just need to do that. Handwriting, that is something I really want to do. I don't really want to say calligraphy, but I want to like learn how to do fancy handwriting. You can see how sloppy this is. I want to be able to write really fancy stuff in my journals. Astrology, I just find it fascinating. And then there we go. Memory keeping. It's going to make its appearance throughout my brainstorming. Yeah, I just want to focus on making memory keeping enjoyable. Because it's such a big focus of mine this year. It's a new hobby because it's something I hadn't really done previously. I've journaled, which I guess is a form of memory keeping, but I'm kind of going, I don't want to say like crazy with it, but I want to do like weekly memory keeping. But I want to make sure it's not going to feel like work. I want to keep it where it's still a fun, creative outlet for me and it's enjoyable. So now we're going to talk about relationships. I'm going to flip back here. So when relationships, I did have 3 subcategories: friends, parents, and dating. However, when I started doing this, I did not put parents on here because the parents are pretty much going to be as part of fun and rec. I spend time with my parents, or I should say they spend time with me. They come and visit me on the weekends, and I talk to them on the phone and stuff like that every day. So, the only thing I need to do is just start having experience, like taking fun adventures, local adventures with them. So that's why that is going to be more part of my fun and rec goal versus this. So for me personally, the 2 categories I'm going to focus on is friends and dating. So for friends, my thing is I need to continuously, I put continually, but I meant continuously connect. And continual contact. And contacting is just reaching out and things of that nature. Check-ins. Hey, how's it going? How are things going? How's life? Just regular check-ins. Not necessarily making plans or anything like that. But like continually connecting, that is kind of like making plans and things like that. And not, not doing it every quarter, maybe trying to do it every month and things like that. Again, I put the experiences here. And as I was brainstorming, I put be more open. And that kind of came about last week I was telling you guys about potential words of the year that I was thinking about. And the one that I'm really kind of honing in on is breakthrough. I think it's between breakthrough and fortify. But I keep coming back to this one. And it's mainly because, you know, I put up walls, barriers, and it's not like for any other reason, but just something. It's just something I do. And you know, when I meet up with my friends, especially if it's friends that I only like have, you know, dinner with every so often, you know, you're not gonna like talk about anything negative going on in your life. You're gonna, you know, talk about fun, happy stuff. You don't want to bring the room down. But I need to learn to be more open, because sometimes what I've learned is when people have like kind of talked about some things that they were going through with me, you know, I found, hey, like it's relatable, and like it starts conversations that would not have otherwise started. So I just need to be more open. I mean, these are my close friends. I have a small group of friends. And again, that's more of a subconscious thing that I do. It's not like I try to be guarded around my friends. But it's just, you know, especially when you don't see them as often, like I said, you know, you just talk about everything good that's happening and fun and things like that. Or a lot of times you're not even thinking about all the issues that are going on, but sometimes it helps to talk to them about that. So then we're going to talk about health and wellness. This is probably my biggest and most expansive category. And this pretty much, especially this page, is pretty much what it is every year. This was probably one of my worst years when it comes to health and fitness. I've always been into like working out and things of that nature. Nutrition, but working out, I've always really, really enjoyed. This has been my most inconsistent year when it's come to that. However, even if I was consistent, and I would rate myself like an 8 or a 9, as far as how I felt like this year could have went, hypothetically speaking, I still think these would have been items that would still have been on my brainstorm. So real quick, how I defined health and wellness is what I have here. Physical health, which is fitness, nutrition, mental health, and then overall well-being. So like mental well-being, overall well-being. So when it comes to physical health, I just kind of just went with everything that I have always been thinking about. I will say consistency is probably going to be making an appearance in all of this. But, you know, exercise and that strength training, cardio, yoga, stretching, tracking my lab results, things of that nature, as well as symptoms. I do that, or have places for that information in regards to symptoms, anxiety levels, and things of that nature. I just have to make sure I'm actually tracking it every day. And then I just have some other simple kind of goals that a lot of people have. Nutrition, I wrote balanced meals. I even put on here like nutritionist, question mark. I might want to take that route this year. Real food versus, you know, I want to eat less packaged food or fake food. Vitamins and supplements. I want to track my nutrition. I do have a space in my daily planner, my daily fitness and wellness planner, but I, you know, might also want to incorporate that into my Fitness Pal. I got to figure it out. I got to figure out if I want to do macros or what have you. But again, this is a brain dump. And I want to put as much here as possible, because it might not be something that I want to start the new year with, but at some point, if things really take off, then I can come back, look at here and say, okay, now I can add this, or now I want to add this, or something like that. So mental health, I am going to have that as its own subcategory within health and wellness. I put like meditate, stretching, basically stress and anxiety reducing exercises. I want to do regular check-ins. And I put talk, but I think, you know, journaling also can fulfill that. It's basically like getting things out, whether it's talking or putting it on paper when it comes to like just mental well-being. And then overall well-being, I have built-in rest days versus impromptu rest days. I would rather have built-in rest days, because I feel like that ensures that they are truly rest days and not lazy days. Those impromptu days turn into 3 and 4 lazy days in a row. So I would really rather do the built-in days versus impromptu. That's a personal preference. Consistency again. I also put in here adequate sleep and track sleep quality. I usually don't spend a lot of time thinking about my sleep. I track how many hours I sleep, but I usually get enough hours. I'm just not sure if it's quality sleep. I know I'm not waking up in the middle of the night, but I don't know if I'm truly hitting the REM sleep or whatever it is. So I might need to keep my Apple Watch on sometimes just to kind of track that to make sure I'm getting enough sleep. Personal growth. So instead of writing the categories here, I just listed the categories here and then I just kind of brain dumped. So the way I am treating personal growth, and I think I actually did something like this last year as well. I want to focus inward. So I want to work on building myself up, and that is compassion for self, self-reflection, improving self-image, and self-worth. So that is kind of the main focus. And I did write over here, work on optimism and positivity. That is something that I have been working on this year. And it's actually been working pretty well. I think it's something that I have to constantly work on, though, if I'm being completely honest. So I think it just always needs to make an appearance in my journal or in my goal setting information, because I think it's always going to be something I need to think about. Maybe it'll come second nature. But I put journal, and that is obviously, I think, a big part of this. I put affirmations with my exclamation marks because that's the one form of journaling that I'm currently doing, and it's really working really, really well. I've talked about that on my channel. I have set up videos where I kind of go through what I do. Basically, I just pick a random affirmation, and then I journal about it. It just kind of helps you look at, maybe, talking positively about yourself, or maybe looking at how to improve yourself. So I really enjoy that. I'm going to continue that into the new year. I have gratitude and positivity here. I am going to add both of those into journaling at some point in 2026. I might do the positivity, or what I'm calling journal of joy, into my affirmations journal. But I think maybe starting out, because this is working so well, I don't want to add too much to it too soon where I completely give up on it. So I think I'm going to continue as is. And then when it comes to positivity and gratitude, I think I'm going to just write a few things in my planner, my daily planner, which is more of a tracker or journal. It's recording what I did that day. So I figured that might be a good place for it, because this is literally going to be a couple of words. So if I start putting it there, then I can integrate it into my affirmations journal, maybe as early as February, or maybe at some point in January. But I kind of want to start small, because I feel like that might make it easier. Memory keeping. And the reason why I said that is I put a smiley face is because looking back at my memory keeping books makes me happy. It brings joy and things of that nature. And I actually think the process of memory keeping itself would probably also bring me joy. Like I said, I haven't been great about doing that. So I'm speaking in terms of probably right now. And I put photos because, I do think sometimes seeing things in photos makes it a little bit more real. So you can, remember things a little bit better. And I put Dear Diary. I need to let out the negativity. I need to let it out. So I need to do daily emotional journaling. I didn't know how to define it, so that's what it is. And then I put self-care. So financial, I don't need to flip back, because the two subcategories are what I'm using to define financial this year is money management and savings. That is the two things that I'm going to focus on. However, when it comes to money management, I think I'm going to focus on specific categories, which may or may not change, monthly or quarterly or what have you. But in 2025 and even 2024, I was doing financial tracking. I was trying to record what I was spending in all areas of my life. I'm not going to do that. I don't care what I'm spending on groceries right now. I don't care what I'm spending on gas. I don't care what I'm spending on home essentials right now. There may come a point where I want to go back to that. But again, I want to be consistent with this. So I'm going to be focusing on areas that I really need to audit, which obviously is going to be my more frivolous spending, which is going to be crafting, which is going to be, you know, things like clothing, beauty supplies, or what have you. So those are the things I'm going to track. That will make it a lot easier, but it's really what I need to track. So let's just focus on what I need to track instead of doing it all. I may actually set some parameters. I have an idea in mind for that. I think what I'm going to do is set like an annual amount that I want to stay under when it comes to specific categories like crafting. And then I'll divide that by 12 months. And then so let's say it's $1,200 just to make math easy. So then like January, $100, right, is what I'll start with. If January I spend no money, then February I now have a $200 budget. However, if in January I spend $150, then I will only have a $50 budget come February because I already spent an extra $50, which I will then take from February. I think that's my idea. I don't think I'm gonna have a $1,200 budget. I think I'm gonna scale that down because I just don't need anything. So, but that's what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking about budgeting or parameters. I will set that up with you guys probably as part of my January setup or something for my catch-all planner. And then savings. And I just kind of wrote some areas that I want to save for. And this kind of got me thinking that I need to allocate for specifics. So I might need to open up a few extra accounts as long as they don't charge me to kind of put money in this one account for this particular thing. And I only pull money from that account for that particular purpose. So that way it's not necessarily like I have to keep track of it always on paper because I know now I have this balance in the account and this is the account that's specifically for travel. Something like that. And then finally, a physical environment. That is finally, right? So when it comes to physical environment, I define that as home. That was the definition for this. So I just brain dumped what I wanted to do this year for my home. You know, physical environment can be whatever you want it to be. Like it says garage, car, garden, possessions, energy, peace, whatever. I'm just thinking about my house. I want to do a regular cleaning schedule. It's not going to be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's going to be on the day I decide to clean my bathroom. These are the things that need to be done. This is about how much time it's going to take to do it. And then I'm going to choose to clean the bathroom on the days where in the evening I have that much time that I can do it. Because there's going to be days where I'm going to have more time than others. You know, in-office days versus telework days. Days that I have to go meet friends for dinner. I shouldn't say have to because that makes it sound like it's a chore. But days that I'm like having an outing is going to be, you know, less time available than other days. Declutter, I want to keep that as part of a monthly goal. I want to pretty much set an area, a room, or whatever, maybe an area within a room to focus on each month or each week. So that way I can really, really work on decluttering. And then I just wrote a list of projects that I might want to take on. The backyard and the flower beds definitely are going to be priorities. I put fence, question mark, starting to fall apart, but you know, we'll deal with that when we have to. But just, again, wanting to put it out there in the universe because I might need to refer to this later on. And then I said paint, bathroom trim. Might get done over the holidays. Probably won't. If not, then I need to keep it in mind for 2026. So that's my brainstorming, y'all. Another chatty video. Maybe it gave you guys some ideas. Maybe it didn't. But maybe you were just brainstorming while I was chatting in the background. But I hope it did give you some ideas. This is how my brain works. This is what I like to do. There's a lot of empty space because over the next few days, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add things. What I add may not necessarily be goals, but they might be things that might kind of get me thinking about goals or just specific things I need to take into consideration. There might be something that is going on in the coming year that I might want to add here so that way I can just kind of remember it to take it into account when I'm thinking about finances or something like that. Yeah, so that is that. I'm going to continue to, like I said, think on this because I like to take things slow and let it marinate and add to it. There are definitely some trends. I can kind of see where I'm going. I am going to keep in mind, I think Breakthrough and Fortify, they both have kind of the same type of vibe when it comes to what I want to get next year. I feel like a lot of these are very, very similar as far as my word of the year options, but I'm also keeping that in mind because that's where I'm leaning. I'm keeping that in mind when I'm thinking about these. So I think the next time we check in with this, which is next week, when I start putting it into action and committing to what I really want to focus on, you'll probably see some circles, some highlights and things like that. Maybe a new word where I write on here, this is going to be the focus. I can summarize all of this up in like 2 simple words. It's going to probably be some of that. So yeah, that's kind of where we are now. I hope your goal setting is going good. It's really not, it really doesn't have to be a process. I literally spend I do spend a little bit more time because I'm filming a video. So I'm doing a lot of explaining. Whereas if I was just to sit down and do it, it wouldn't take that long. I will say sitting down and doing all of this on my own, it probably took maybe 30 minutes. And that's because I actually sat down and put thought into it. And like I said, I'm going to continuously revisit it. I'm not going to sit down with it open to revisit. It's just now that it's on my mind, things will pop up in my brain as I go throughout my day. And then I'll come in here and just jot something down. So it really isn't a super long process, even though I'm making multiple videos. I'm just making the videos because I do this one process for 1 week. All right, guys, there we go. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press that like button. And if you have yet to subscribe, I hope you would also consider subscribing. That's all I have for now. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.